Morning, Temple.
Morning, Drayton. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Hello, everyone listening. We've kind of put together a Ratchet podcast. We're going to put some gameplay over the top of it, so this is more one that you can watch. And the reason we're doing it is because we did a thing. Temple, what have we done?
Yay! We did a thing. We have decided to make our own tournament, which is exciting.
Right, kick it off. What is the premise of the tournament?
I mean, for me, the basics of understanding this tournament is that it's designed to be a full random tournament, and it's designed to be a chill tournament. It's not super try hard. You're not going to be scrimming, every day of the week preparing for this. It's just a bit of fun. You turn up to on the day, you play some games, you have fun. So it's going to be full random. So how are we designing the randomness, Drayton?
Um, exactly like that. We've got a spreadsheet where we have every single unit in the game, every single weapon in the game, and a large map pool to choose from as well. We're going to put a random number generator, assigning each of those variables a number, and it's going to spit out a setup. So, as I mentioned there, we're going to have random units with no doctrines. We're going to have 2 weapons banned every week, with Maul always being banned. And then we're going to announce what the map is, as well as what the weapon and the units are, an hour before the games. So the reason this is all kind of bringing together is a lot of the newer players in the game are just like, oh, I really want to get involved in tournaments. I really want to be part of a team, but I do not have 4 evenings a week to scrim. I do not have the time or even the inclination to do that. But I do want to play with my friends. I do want to play in a competitive situation and see what it's like. So we came up with a tournament that you can't scrim for. That the only thing you could potentially build is team synergy, and everyone's playing sieges with each other already. So how are you meant to prepare a unit strat on a specific map comp when you have no idea what the maps are?
And I think
that's the idea for me.
little sneaky peek, we are planning to use maps that we haven't really seen in tournaments before.
Mm-hmm. I can guarantee there will not be Reginopolis. After the CBL,
Or Hylian?
Or Hylian. Yeah, too much. Every single round has
Karak.
always been those. Maybe Karak, because it's got 2 different variations. So we can bring back the old
true.
one.
Is the old one on the custom maps?
It
I've never actually
is.
looked. Oh,
It
that could be
is.
interesting. Go back to the old times. Like, oh, we're playing Karak today, guys. Surprise, surprise, though, it's the old version.
So yeah, the idea is to bring a new player base into tournament play, as well as doing a setup that veterans and new players like. So yeah, what's the format?
Yeah, it's interesting. So we are doing a slightly different format. I don't think I've seen any tournament do this before, at least not the more recent ones. So we are doing a 9-team format. So there's going to be 9 teams of 8 people, with 4 subs allowed, so up to 12 people per team. And what we're going to do then is each week, just 3 of those teams will fight. So let's just use teams A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, H, I as an example, right? So week 1, teams A, B, and C will fight. So A fights B, B fights C, C fights A. So 3 games, you'll play 2 in that week. The next week, it's the second group that will do the same thing. So D fights E, E fights F, F fights D. And in the third week, G fights H fights I fights G. And then in the fourth week will be the finals, which is where the top team from each of those groups will then go through and do the same format again, but in those finals. So it's a bit different to what I've seen before.
Yeah. I took it from some of the sporting meets I used to do, where 1 team would host, 2 teams would travel, and you'd play all the games in a day. And because this is Conqueror's Blade, we can get a best of 2 really quickly done. Winner gets 2 points. If it's a draw, 1 point and each team. And if it's a loss, it will then be 0 points. And we're then going to take the winner of that group, and they're going to play a couple of weeks later and play against the winners of the other groups. So we then can repeat it. So we get 3 people in the first round, and then 3 people in the final.
It's definitely a new format I think that we haven't seen from tournaments in Conqueror's Blade, which is what's exciting for me. I think the big thing for me as well is that, again, it's not a big time commitment. You're signing up, you're playing 1, maybe 2 days in the month, and that's it. You're not having to commit to, a couple of hours every week.
That's what a big thing for a lot of people. So the day of the week it's going to be is a Wednesday evening. This is primarily because it's the best day for Temple and I. We've got jobs. We can't go too late in the day, and we acknowledge that it's not a perfect time for everyone, but it is certainly the best time for us. And if we're going to talk specifically about the North American players who have reached out and said they really want to play, but they can't at that time, the hope is that there'll be another round of this where they can take part.
Yeah. That is the goal. Either we'll try and do maybe the next one, because again, we're trying to plan this to be a sort of permanent fixture, shall we say, where it continues each month, and we'll do another one each month. So either we can look at where we potentially change the day in the future, or we can look at where we potentially even run 2 leagues, I guess you can call it, side by side. So we could have, one that's maybe an EU one and maybe one NA version if we get enough traction with it that runs along at the same time. That is just a later time in the day, or different day, so we have those 2 leagues running together. Because if it gets popular, we might even have enough teams that we can just have 2 leagues anyway, where could be different days or could be the same day but same time, but we just only stream one on the one channel and we stream the other league on the other on another channel. So there's definitely room for some changes there, and we are open to changes. We're not just going to sit there the whole time. But for this first one, we're going to stick with what we've announced and what we planned, which is that Wednesday evening.
Sounds good. And the next part is what time. We think because it's only about 2 sieges, it shouldn't actually be that long. So everyone should be done after about 2 hours, unless a decider is needed.
Yeah. So like you say, it's going to be small teams. It's 8v8, so those matches tend to run quicker. We're going to pick smaller maps, which again tend to run quicker. And so realistically, it's like half an hour for 2 games, 15 minutes per game, with the loading time between. For 2 rounds, I mean. So you're looking at maybe an hour and a half, possibly going up to 2 hours for each team. And then it's just whether you're playing the first game, second game, or third game, basically, that changes how long or how soon you're going to be playing.
Yep. What are some...
Then we have the decider.
The decider. Yeah, we can talk about that in a bit, because it's going to be one of the foreseeable issues that we have, which is when we have a draw and we need to come up with a solution of how to deal with that. The next thing I really want to talk about is kind of like what our hopes are for the tournament. Like, what do we think a success will look like?
For me, it's going to sound cheesy, but I just want the teams to be having fun. That's just generally I want teams to have fun and not be like, we didn't win, or we won, but that was really boring. Like, I want teams to have just turn up, have a bit of fun, and then if they get some rewards, they get some rewards. But just enjoy yourselves, basically. Because the way I see it is it's reminiscent of the old Mighty Myrmidon NA tournament that used to happen. So he used to have a late V8 tournament for NA, and then obviously I took some guys over and we started just playing in that, and we were just playing random units all the time in there, just turning up on the day, playing a few games, having some fun, and then going to the next one a couple of weeks later. So that's kind of what motivated me, I guess, to do this one, because it was just a lot of fun, just doing a small random tourney, not having to super try hard. And yeah, just enjoy playing the game.
Yeah, it's another reason why we went for the relatively smaller team. I think the Nations Cup showed a really good precedent for having that kind of numbers in a game. So also the availability of players. So we've gone for 4 subs. This kind of exemplifies the extent of how relaxed we want this to be. It's like, if you're not there, you don't have to worry. You've got other people that can come and take your spot. You don't have to give up your time when you just can't. So there's that side as well. We really wanted it to be accessible to everyone. And on the subject of accessibility, one of the issues with tournaments, and it always will be and always kind of has, is the right units at the right time. So there are plenty of people that are new to the game, and we've got new players coming in quite big numbers right now.
Definitely.
And do they have all the units to play in the CBR? Absolutely not. They're not even close. Do they have all the units to potentially play in a tournament on the tournament server? Of course they would, but we can't give them access to the tournament server just yet. So what we've come up with, kind of like the best solution, which is a random setup where everyone gets a load of units, and from there they. Ooh, someone's killing my units. And from there they can hopefully have a decent setup. So the idea is to pick units from the unit tree as well as from the seasonal store or seasonal units, and construct a team comp based on that.
Yeah, exactly. So we're trying to do a mix so that, people may not have all the seasonal units, but if we look at the honor tree, realistically, a lot of players have a lot of those units. And whilst it will be random, if it's something that's completely broken, like let's say it's only shields that get picked from the randomizer, then we might look at tweaking one or two of those units just so it's a bit more fun, because we don't just want full shield versus full shield, because with Maulband, it's going to be very hard to actually kill that, which can make it very awkward for the attacking or defending sides. So the attackers would have an advantage there with the Treb, of course, but yeah, we don't want to just have an AFK fight that goes on for 10 minutes fighting non-stop with shields.
Yeah, completely agree. Some of the issues we definitely foresee, though, alongside this, is people picking the wrong units, people picking a banned weapon or a banned unit even, and our thought process on how to deal with that.
Yeah, I was going to say we haven't really defined how we're going to deal with that yet, have we? So, no. And that's partly why we're doing this chat now as well, so you guys can just listen into our thinking, how we're sort of thinking about this kind of stuff, and how we come to these decisions. So, I mean, for me, it would be a case of they get one chance of remake per match. So if people load in with the wrong stuff, they get one remake. After that, there's got to be some kind of penalty, right? After that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, class-wise, it's quite easy, right? Because you can swap your class.
It.
Yeah, class-wise, you can change your class. Maybe with the units, we can just say we just can't play that unit, because it's something that they did in the Nations Cup, right? They just said, well, because of the Orochi that you couldn't ban, so they just said if you end up picking that, you just can't play that unit, and if you play that unit in the fight, then you lose that round. So that could be one way we look at it as well. I think it just depends on the scenario. We've got to be open to looking at each scenario differently, because no two scenarios are going to be the same. There might be one where someone just doesn't have the units, and so they just think they can pick something else, which could be different to someone that maybe intentionally picked it because it's their favorite unit, or maybe it's just someone that wasn't paying attention and just picked the unit without thinking and was like, oh crap, I didn't mean to click that. So there's different scenarios there that we'll have to look at each time and look at it on a case-by-case basis, I feel like, for a lot of it. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think there's always going to be players making honest mistakes, and I don't think it should completely stop them playing as a result. And I'm going to give people the benefit of the doubt, like, oh, you picked the wrong unit this time, don't do it again. One free remake for each team. Because we also don't want to be like sat around forever. We want it to be reasonably prompt and done so that everyone can then go back to their lives. And we also really want to avoid incidents like we've had in other tournaments where you end up with 20-minute breaks, 30-minute breaks, where they're having to meet and make decisions. So what we'll do is we'll get a third party in, a third person outside of us, that can also basically say, yeah, completely agree with that decision, given everything that you've set up.
Yep, that's kind of my thoughts. I think it's good to have three, because I think some people are under the false impression that it's my tournament. It's not. Obviously, we're making the tournament together, so there's two of us that are leading it, which then can mean that we could have split decisions. So it's always good to get that third person in, just so we have that. Always we'll have a 2-1 vote on any decision if we don't agree to it. So it's going to be good to get that third person in. Which, yeah, we haven't decided who that's going to be yet. Maybe it could be one of the casters at the time. It could be different each week. But just so we have that third person that can look at it. We may just get someone set from the start. But yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. We still got, just over a week until the signups are finished. And then it's, 25 days until we start the first game. So we still have plenty of time.
Yeah, still loads of time. So the other thing that's currently ongoing is the sign-up process. So as we record this, we've got 3 teams in already. We are hoping to obviously have 9, but we're also being realistic in what happens when we get more teams than that. So this will be one where I don't know if we'll include this, because I've thought this over myself, but I'm not sure I've discussed it with you, Temple. Which is because we want this to be a tournament for the newer players and new teams. It could be a case of where we approach some of the more veteran teams and we say, hey, you're very experienced at this. do you want to take part? Obviously, if you want to, you can stay in. But if you don't, if you're doing this just because it's kind of like, oh, it's a tournament, I want to take part for the sake of it, do you want to step aside and let someone else new in? And
Yeah.
if players are like, no, I 100% want to take part, then they're in. And we'll then, if there's say 10 teams that have signed up and 9 teams want to be in, we will then do, as we would do with units, a random selection process, which will record and then make it as obvious and open to everyone as possible. That's kind of my thoughts anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I know there have been whispers of people saying, "Oh, you're going to ban top teams from entering," and blah blah. That's not the case. Like I said, we want this to be open to everyone. But if we do get more than 9 teams, we have to think of a way of how we cut it down. And like you said, ideally, we want the newer teams in here because that's the idea of this. The experienced teams can go join. CB Rivals. They've got CBL when if it ever comes back. There's other tournaments out there. Whereas we want to get some new people in on the scene here. And want people having fun as well. Which is not always the case when you have these top teams that come in super try hard and some people would say ruin it for everyone else. So for me, I don't really care who's in there as much. Like I want people just to enter and have fun and just enjoy the randomness of it. But
As
we do want
as we
more of
design the
those fresh
tournament,
players.
as we design it, I don't feel like there is the case of these super try-hard people actually having that much benefit. The only difference I can see between a really veteran lineup and a not veteran lineup is synergy, which is part of tournament play. Like you can't complain if someone has better synergy than you. And the second part is probably purple schematics and purple weapons. Like purple schematic weapons. That's the only difference I can foresee. We're trying to level the playing field as much as we possibly can while keeping it on live servers. And I think we've done a good job. If you guys have got more suggestions, just chuck it in the comments. We'll address it. And because I want to release this relatively fast, we should have time to actually go through that.
Definitely. Like I said, we are open to suggestions. So one thing I would add on to that is, obviously you mentioned purple schematics things there. We did have the conversation of potentially, banning certain armors and things like that, but it's way too hard to police. You could say to people, "Oh, screen share and show us your stuff," but then as soon as the screen share ends, they could change it, and we wouldn't know until we'd see like the in-game stuff on there. It's like, do we ban them for taking it? All that kind of side of things, and it's too much hassle, then it's too hard to police, almost impossible to police. So it just wasn't worth it in the end. So we decided to do it this way instead. So people are free to use whatever they want. As long the main thing that's just decided is the hero classes, where we will ban one each week, alongside them all, and then it's those units that we will just give you a selection from. Just to say, with the units, we are trying to do it where it's a fairly even spread. So it's going to be mainly purples, right? So we're going to do mainly tier 4s, tier 3s, and even some greens and greys as well, with potentially 1 gold per week. But it depends on which gold it is, because we don't want it to be like, oh, this week it's Yanya Dao, everyone takes Yanya Dao, and it's just Cav versus Cav nightmare. So in cases like that, we will kind of tweak a little bit. Like I said, we want it to be as random as possible, but we still want it to be fun. And so we don't just want a full Cav week and things like that. But that we may put out some surprises. We may do themed weeks as well. It's something we discussed. Not sure if we'll go ahead with it yet. But it's things we discussed, like, it's a certain week we can have this certain hero class banned, and then these certain units can be played. So, for example, we could potentially ban musket or longbow the one week and then play a heavy range setup, just because it's quite interesting to see what teams do with it, and things like that. So there's definitely some options there for doing some sort of themed sessions. I think we covered kind of the units stuff now. So I think one thing I want to talk about is how actually the matchups look. So how each match looks on the day, what you're going to be doing, and then obviously there's the issue of the decider that we haven't really spoken about yet, and what we can do with that.
Let's end with that.
Right. So one thing we want to talk about next is the actual matches and sort of how they look and how the play is gonna feel. What's your day going to look like, I guess? So an hour before we start. So we're saying we're starting from 20 to 23 CST, right? So at 19 CST, that's when we will announce to the captains what the maps are, what the units are. I mean, we could just announce it to the whole field, to be fair. It doesn't have to be just the captains, right? We can just announce it to everyone.
We'll let the captains know first, and then we'll do a public shout.
So we'll let you know what the map is on the night. We're trying to get maps that have never been seen before, so we have done a lot of testing. Some of them still may not work, so in that scenario, we might just restart the matchup with a different map. So we'll always have a backup map there just in case. But yeah, we're trying to do it on maps you haven't seen before. So you're going to do 1 attack and 1 defense each. And like Drayton touched on before, there's a point, so you get 1 point per win. So if you win both matchups, it's 2 points. If you get a draw, it's 1 point each. Loss is no points, obviously. But if teams at the end of the round robin, so you do 2 matches each, if teams are tied, we will have some decider games. So Drayton, do you want to touch on what we're thinking for the decider games?
Yes, we are thinking extremely quick, over before you know it, and then everyone can just get on with their day, kind of things. So some of the ones we've looked at were the idea of like a death match, and because of we saw that quite extensively, and there became whole metas around it in the Nations Cup. No, don't particularly want that, because then it will be just a repeat on what already exists. The other options that we tested with a couple of our friends were to do field battles, where as soon as the B point is capped, the game is over. Like that's what we say is the end.
Yeah, so it's really fast, aggressive. You have to push really hard.
Yeah, you have to push really, really fast. You'd use the same units that were in the unit allocation, so there's nothing new for players to have to wait for. They're just like, right, we take the same team comp we took for the sieges, let's go. And just the idea for it to be not a whole 15-minute slow bleed was the one thing I really wanted to avoid. And
like you said, we want to keep this nice and quick, right? So
yeah. Want people to go and look forward to the next game and not go, ugh, this thing again. So that was one. Temple had a brilliant idea that we're struggling to just kind of like execute, which is a protect the president idea.
Definitely.
Personally, that would be so funny, and there's so many different ways.
I just think it's so unique as well, right? But like you said, there's so many different ways you can do it. We could do it where only the president has units, but they would have to choose it. They would have to pick the unit that we tell them to. And to be honest with you, I'm leaning towards like spear sergeants on cover commander, or like prev guards on cover commander, or something like that. It has to be a cover commander unit, right? But it can't be imp shields. I think if no one else has units multi-band, it can't be imp shields.
And it may well end up being a combination of what we discussed about capping B point on a field map while doing protect the president, because that forces people to fight. It means the president isn't just going to hide AFK and spawn, which would be no fun at all.
Yeah, if we do a protect the president, it would have to be you have to fight on a certain area, or you've got a certain zone that you can fight in, because otherwise, like you say, people just sit in spawn protection. So that we're definitely still open to ideas on that. If any of you guys have any thoughts on how we can do that, let us know in chat down below in the comments. But yeah, so we want to try and do something different, something fun, but something fast.
I just got 2 grape shot kills and I feel dirty.
You filthy, filthy boy.
Who builds artillery in pubby sieges?
I know, it's disgusting, right? Definitely no one builds legendary flaming comets, right?
What?
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 What? Huh?
Okay. What are the decider for me, I think, is a chance for us to do something really, really wacky and fun, and I'd love more ideas on it.
Definitely, I think there's definitely some fun things you can do in the game.
We've had a few suggestions that I'll keep secret for now, but I think they're really, really good. If you have more suggestions, please put them in. And one of the things we also want to do is try a few other like on-stream parts that should be like, I'm trying to keep it relatively hush, but not like completely give away everything. In my mind, I'd love to have like an interval thing where we go through highlights of the games and implementing that, so that players don't just sit in silence, or watchers don't sit in silence while we set up the next game, as well as doing a bit of like a analyst desk or play of the game focus.
Play of the game.
Play of the game. I don't know if we'll be able to match up the two perspectives for watching the gameplay, but that would be another good example. I think what we'd ask is one person goes around and just records clips, and then we replay those clips in the game. I think that'd be in between games. I think that'd be quite fun.
Yeah, and definitely if there's anyone that wants to sort of help out with any of the sort of streaming side or with the casting or things like that, if you guys want to get involved, just let us know because we are open to letting more people help. Obviously, we don't want to just keep it as just us doing everything, and we want to get more people involved in the community and that sort of tournament side as well. So, I think one of the last
we've had a couple of
things.
people reach out already. Like we've
Mhm.
got casters set up. We should be doing it in multiple languages. Everyone should get to use their own channel as well, which is obviously a big thing for a number of people.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. We're not just going to gatekeep it, by saying it has to be done through our official channel or through my personal. Because I don't think we're going to do an official one, right? We're just going to stream it through mine, I think, to start with. Maybe that
Yep.
changes in the future if this gets, really popular. Then we might do something different, similar to what Rivals have done with their own channels. But yeah, we're not going to gatekeep it like that. So if we have other streamers involved, they can stream on their own channel, and we can just, let people do their own things. We want this to be as popular as possible, but not gate kept to one channel. We want it to be a big community event where people can just come and have some fun and just enjoy, playing for an hour, 2 hours in the week, and just having some fun in the tournament.
Do you think we could experiment with doing it without delays?
We can definitely try that because I don't think there's really much that's going to change, right? It's just going to be if people pick if we say these are your units and they pick, all the one type of unit just to try and catch their enemy off guard. That's going to be the only thing that really changes, right? So we could definitely try it without delay and see how it goes. And just see how teams feel about it. I guess we can talk to the captains, talk to the community in the comments down below if you guys feel like it would be something that could work.
The delay does cause problems between the audience and the people actually doing the broadcast.
Definitely. I mean, we can just ask that. We can just be open with people and say, look, we're not going to have a delay on. Please avoid, just looking at the stream to get an advantage because it's not supposed to be a tournament where you're super try-harding for the win. It's just supposed to be playing some random units, having some fun, right? So I feel like we can just ask people not to. If they do, they do. There's not much we can do about it. We can see if it has a massive impact on the games.
Yeah, and if people complain, we can introduce delays.
Yeah, definitely.
And
we can definitely
the maximum length of delay I'd want is the length of the lobby, so then people can't see where their enemies are spawning and gain an advantage that way.
Minute delay, right?
Yeah, I think that's 1 minute, which is reasonable, and I don't think too hard to implement.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the other things we should touch on is the rewards, the prizes for it, because that is why some people play tournaments. This is going to be supported by My Games in some way. We don't have the details yet. We're waiting for them to get back to us. Oops, excuse me. But that means there will be what we're hoping for is some sort of small sovereign rewards, basically. It's not going to be anything crazy because it's just a small for fun tournament. So don't expect, thousands of sovereigns for the winners. But there should be some incentive there to play. So we're going to have something there. And we also got potential prospects of community members supporting the tournament in some way or other. So there's definitely going to be some kind of reward there. Just we can't really talk about details at the moment because it hasn't been confirmed. So other than that, I think that's pretty much everything covered, right?
I think that's it. If anyone has any questions regarding the tournament, always reach out. I'll put a link to the Discord in the bottom. Or Temple will do it if he does his part of the podcast for once. And then...
You mean for once? I always do it. That's why there's spelling mistakes in there.
Grew.
Boom.
Boom. Have you seen my chair? It's been getting slowly lower. That's an inside joke. I'm very sorry. Yeah.
Well, if you watched the previous episodes of the podcast, it's not an inside joke, is it? It's a joke for everyone.
True. I guess. But yeah, the big thing being it is a for fun tournament. And we want everyone to be involved. If you've never taken part in a tournament before, but you're questioning whether or not it's something you want to do, this is never a better chance than this one. We've had some really good ones in the past with like Quarto tournaments and like original CBLs where they've had entry requirements are you need to be the most active team on the game and stuff like that. No, this is like just sign up. Everyone's in with a chance of being part of it.
Have a bit of fun.
One day every 3 weeks. That's the way of thinking about it. You just have to want to. If you are inclined to play, you'll probably get a chance. And we can see that there's a large number of looking for team players as well. So there's loads of people involved. in terms of running a tournament or running a team, like I can't see it being a particularly arduous process. All you need to do is just get the numbers together, get the
Exactly.
people
You
in the
just
right
need one
place.
person just to be like, yeah, I'll lead the team. Go into the looking for team channel. You'll find 8 people in there easily. So just
Yeah,
go.
there
Just
already are.
decide
I
that
think
we just want a captain, right? So just be like, I want to run a team. There's no real work for it this time because all you got to do is just sort out the unit comp on the day, which most of it's random units anyway. So your team should be like, okay, well I've only got these, so I'll pick that. I'm like, okay, cool, sorted.
Yep. Right. We can fill the rest of the time, which isn't very much, with some of the Conqueror's Blade discussion that's going to be going on. So we've managed to enjoy some very interesting structures in Conqueror City lately.
That has been fun. Supposedly fixed by now, right?
Yeah, it did look like
I'm
it
not
had
actually
one
in
I logged
Congress
on
City anymore,
earlier.
so I'm not there. So
I won't ask where your camp is.
people on stream can see because they can see which city I was in. It's just I finished last territory war. I just haven't left. 'Cause I haven't played much last couple of days, to be fair. But yes, there was those interesting little things blocking people in spawn on Congress City and crap like that. So that was definitely a fun one. What do you think of the new Cav unit?
I haven't seen it do particularly well, but I do think it's because people are not playing it in its best way.
I see a lot of people charging in first with it, which is what I think is bad.
I think this is verging on how people played Chevaliers, which is more of a use its abilities to get out rather than go in. And that's obviously a concept we don't typically do in Conqueror's Blade, but I do think is probably the best way to do it.
Yeah, I have seen some good stuff from it. A couple of my housemates have already unlocked it straight at the start because they're big money spenders, you know. Gotta love that. And they've done games with hundreds of units kills on it and stuff, so it can definitely be used well. I think from my understanding of looking at it, it's like it's a follow-up brawl unit, right? So you want to go into the fight once it's already started, once your melee's already hit, you want to try and get some damage in there, and just leave them there to brawl. Basically, they're a unit I think that a lot of heroes can use well, like the likes of dual blades, muskets, that kind of thing, where you don't want to be micromanaging units the whole time. You want to be focusing on your hero play more. And so it's a unit that you can allow you to do that because you don't need to micromanage it. Once it's in the fight, you're just pressing 2 every now and then, just cleaning up fights, just allowing to heal back up again. So it just allows you a lot more freedom with your hero, I guess. Also, Men at Arms are still broken.
Men at Arms are very strong, but they have counters that
they're not
don't
broken.
want to play.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the usual logic, right? Where people are like, because there was even someone that I saw on the official Discord yesterday that said, the Musher are broken, they need to be nerfed, and it's like, well, no, because you just stun them once and they die. Like they're a very, very squishy unit. You just need to counter them. And I think Men at Arms, whilst they're still very strong, MVP. Sorry, whilst they are still very strong, you need to just play units to counter them. They die very easily to Cav. I was having a conversation with someone earlier because they were going, but Men at Arms easily kill Cav if you dodge the charge. I was like, well, you just said it there. If you dodge the charge. So if you don't dodge that charge, you're not going to do very much with it. Also, it's actually why Dagrax is at farm that game. Temple Cav player confirmed. Let's go. 65
No, I don't think so.
Cav player Temple confirmed. I sent you that screenshot of that scrim I did with 12 hero kills.
You can't block supply you with Cav.
True. With the new Cav, though, you can.
Maybe you can.
Because then I could send the Cav onto point and just be sat on supply pressing 2 over and over again. Be great.
You gone top line?
I think we get. What with the new Cav? I don't have it yet, but I think top line for me arguably looks better just because you get the reset of the 2 whenever you kill stuff.
Yeah.
But I think it depends on the scenarios. I think in tournaments, bottom line might be better because you're not going to kill as much in the tournaments, right?
I think the seasonal doctrine that gets released will dictate which path it needs to go. So
true, because we don't have that yet, do we?
They typically release a doctrine midway through the season that kind of just then meta defines how the unit is used. So yeah, I think that's how they'll do it. Right, let's wrap it up there. Thanks so much everyone for listening. Thank you very much, Temple, and good luck in your ranked games.
See you later, losers.
Wow, friendly.
And
we'll cut there.